Alli, there's so many fitness influencers out there. Who should I be listening to?
Maybe we should be listening to someone like our interviewee today that has 38 years experience in the industry.
Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Today we are so excited to have Miss Carolyn Erickson, who has tons and bukus of experience in the fitness industry and lives in California, not too far, a couple hours away from the fitness capital of the world. And she's going to just give us some insight into just what she's learned in her journey. So welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. It's so good to be on your show, girls. Nice to see you.
Yeah, so let's kick it off with just a little bit about like how you got into this and how long, what all you've been doing over time. Just give us a little Cliff Notes version of that.
Yeah, how much time do we have?
I know.
Yeah, covers
a journey.
4 years in 15 seconds.
Yeah, so it's actually 38. And literally, I knew what I wanted to do when I was in college. And so once I figured that out, I never went back. And with fitness, the journey is not this straight line. I think you can always turn the corner and there's something else over here and there's something else over here. And so what's nice about it is that everyone's little journey and their fitness story, regardless if you're an enthusiast or a fit pro, your story is your story on how you got interested in a healthy lifestyle. So they're always interesting. But yeah, it started a long time ago and it just never, I'm going to be 60 next year and it's going to be 38 years in the industry.
So with having 38 years in the industry, what is the biggest thing that you've seen that's changed over time in the fitness industry?
Oh, so much. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm going to say COVID changed everything, especially for the fitness industry. My business was thriving. My consultant business was thriving up until COVID, and everything I did was in person. Right. And then we bought all the bells and whistles to be amazing online. And here we are doing the same thing. I mean, we couldn't do this if we didn't use a Zoom or a platform that allowed us to see each other on our computers. And so the whole COVID thing really changed our industry forever. And I think that number one, I work a lot with health clubs. And if you haven't established the ecosystem of using a streamlining or an on-demand for your members, then you miss that boat, right? There's no sense in hopping on now, but it's really, we taught people how to work out at home. And so now we need to accommodate that. And so that's the biggest thing. We'll never be 100% like we were. And I don't think anybody that I know in the industry is pre-COVID numbers. So stop trying to do that because it's a different world. Right. We got to do what we got to do and to bring wellness and fitness and nutrition and whatever plugs we need to bring to our clients and the fitness enthusiasts out there. That's what we need to do. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's the most recent, but I mean, it was a global pandemic. So it did have long lasting effects. And, a lot of people, I would say that, my business, my brick and mortar business did not fare well during COVID, but I do feel that it was a blessing because it brought me to this place where I was only part-time online and now I'm full-time and something that I enjoy. And a lot of people found that so many people before COVID was like, I could never work out at home. And now so many people are like, oh, I never want to go back to the gym. I just want to work out at home. So it's opened up fitness avenues that are accessible to so many more people that don't have the time or the resources to get to a physical place. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It sure has. I mean, I think your success story, that's just one example of how you did your pivot. And I don't know how many times you had to pivot, right? But you did it and you did it again and you did it again. And that's where you landed. And I feel like again, it wasn't, COVID was bad, but it wasn't necessarily bad for some of us who went into business and had to pivot, right?
Yeah.
We had to learn how to reinvent ourselves again. And a lot of us did that. And, we're still trying. I mean, get A for effort, at least,
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I see. I talked. One of my former business coaches just posted about how their numbers are getting back to. They're still not at pre-COVID levels, but they're about 10% away. So they're getting there. And every year, the last 3 years, it's gone up. Like 30%, then 20%. They're trying to get that last little 10. So and I have a different. I'm different than Shawna, that I stayed the brick and mortar route. And so,
Hmm.
it was definitely a challenge, and we definitely pivoted and did a lot more online. And, now our ladies are pretty much back. So it's been an interesting time for sure. So
Yeah.
what
And
about,
I think too, Alice, Allie, I think it's just also depends on where you are in the world,
yes,
right? Like I'm in California, so the weather's nice. It's easier to get out. If you're in the Midwest or on the East Coast and weather is sometimes an issue, you always have that, option to stay at home and do your fitness. So that's really depends where you're at, I think.
yeah,
yeah,
and people have changed where they work. Some people, we do have more people working from home, and that also makes a difference. So we had clients that worked in the city where our facility is, but they live out of town. So when they stopped working in the city where we are, that made things different.
Yes.
So we do still have some of those that do online, but it's very few. Most of them are back in now. What about as far as, let's look at, just because our audience is primarily women, so let's talk about just the different changes aside from COVID that you've seen throughout the years as far as women and fitness and the different trends. And what have you been your experiences with your side of the industry and your work that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm part of the baby boomers, right, which is the largest population of women and men, women working out. That's still like we started early. We're trying to stay in shape through our late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? And so my focus has had to shift based on my age. And I've seen a lot more programming because we are realizing that as fitness pros that there's a lot of education, but it can be very confusing, right? It's kind of like, what supplement should I take? Like that one question, just has a ton of different answers depending on who you ask. And so our industries sometimes can be confusing because we have to wrap in the nutrition side, the wellness side, the recovery side, the fitness side, the spiritual side, the emotional side. Like it's changed that way, right? So back in the day when we started working out in the whatever 70s, 80s, 90s, it was more or less all about fitness. It was like we made our gyms like a club. Come to the club and work out, and group exercise is always that camaraderie, that community that you love, right? It's always been that. But the route and the direction that fitness has gone had to expand based on what's happening in the world, right? And based on what's happening as who our audience is. We're all getting older, and we need to deal with, disease prevention. I rarely heard that, or maybe didn't pay attention to it when I was in my 20s working out, right? So I think that's a big factor.
and I think age appropriately for you and I at least. And my ear might not have been to the ground in my 20s and 30s when I was into fitness, but menopause was like a dirty word. It was
Mhm.
never referred to, not talked about. I mean, that's even up to 10 years ago. And so what's really great now, I think, is that the buzz about menopause, about how resistance training and fitness and health is a big priority as we age, and things that we can do to manage symptoms and age in a more healthy way is much more prevalent today, which I think is like so awesome. Obviously, the downside is shady marketers who are like, oh, the new cash cow.
Mhm.
And, so just weeding out information, misinformation. But it is great that the whole concept of healthy aging is at the forefront, and a little bit more about wellness instead of just like feel the burn, which would have been
Yes. Oh
more
my
like,
gosh.
right?
Yes. Absolutely. That was the thing, right? You would
Yeah,
feel the burn. Oh,
yeah.
it's funny you say that.
Whether the burn was healthy or whether this is really serving your long-term goals for healthy aging.
Right. I haven't heard that term in a while. Thanks for reminding me, Shawna.
Yes, just I was a group fitness instructor back in my teens and 20s. So yeah, I may have said that at one
A
point.
few times. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's so true though. Very good point. It's everything's much more talked about in the world today, right? Because people are so, because the world's a little less healthy, right? Because we have to worry about literally our environment and the food that grows in our environment. There's so many aspects of that. And then, like I said, us baby boomers that are getting older, there's so many of us. It's the largest group on the planet right now. And so if you're not focusing on that, and we are not the addressing issues and making information available to that group, then we're missing it, right?
Yeah.
We're totally missing the boat.
Has your fitness journey kind of evolved? Like, what did you do in your 20s, 30s,
Oh,
40s?
girl.
What has changed?
Yes. I mean, I was like the hit queen. Like I have always been, from the time I came to San Diego, which was in '86, I got my certification and I taught at a little boutique studio. It was, high, low and step and everything. I never even lifted weights. I never found weights till maybe 10, 15 years later when I realized how much that could change my body. Right. And so, my journey now it's, if I get it an hour a day in the gym and then I walk every day as well with my dogs. If I get that in, I'm happy. And it's no longer about me having a six pack and looking, I mean, I feel good. I look good for my age. I might look good even for, a younger person, but for me, it's all about how do I feel? Right? It's really all how do I feel? Sleep plays a huge part of that, and what I'm putting in my body. So making good choices, getting enough sleep, and moving my body so I can move my body. It's kind of a catch-22. If you don't move, you can't move. So yeah, it's really changed for me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, one of the gifts of age for myself is not just training for aesthetics, but for health, which,
Mhm.
training for aesthetics, while it is a slippery slope, well, it can turn into an unhealthy journey. But I feel like it wasn't like I didn't go as extreme in that vein. But training for health is, the my goal as well. And unfortunately, the with social media and such, there's still the aesthetic component, and the whole I have to lose weight, I have to have a six pack, and it's unfortunate that that is the focus for many people, of just living in a smaller body rather than just living in a body that is functional, which
Mhm.
is the bigger win as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. It's funny. I just did a presentation on demand on muscle dysmorphia, which is a little bit different than body dysmorphia. And, these up and coming things where muscle dysmorphia is a psychological disorder that you believe no matter, you're just not big enough. And the fact of the matter is that the person that has that is unusually large and unusually muscular, right? And it's never good enough. So it's just a different form of body dysmorphia. And I grew up in an age where I did compete. I went through that bodybuilding side of the industry, which can be detrimental, right? You're going from absolutely like perfection into like normalcy, and normal becomes almost hurtful. You're like, I can't, you
Oh,
don't know what normal is. And so I have had a very unhealthy relationship with food most of my life. In college, I was on the gymnastics team and had to make weight all the time, and we didn't have the nutrition information that we had then. So that we have now, and I was a mess. So even to this day, sometimes I know what's going in my mouth. I don't have the disorder, but it never really goes away. You know, it's a constant, and so you're always having this. It feels a little unhealthy. I don't know if everyone feels like I'm going to put this in my mouth and then I'm going to need to go do like cardio for an hour, which is what I used to feel like. I would have to work and earn the food that I ate, which thank God, thank goodness I don't have to do that now or feel like I have to do that, right? Because it is just not the way it is. It's not how your body works.
But I think a lot of people in our demographic still feel that way. Whether you were, I mean, I did in the 90s, early 90s, I did some bodybuilding as well. Alli did fitness. So we've all come from that background. So we all have that, in the back of our mind of, being on stage in a, very different body that's not your healthiest version of you, but looks like it's your healthiest version.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right. And even people that haven't competed, but they just have this, hey, I ate a carb, I gotta go for a run.
Yeah.
Or
I'm sure it exists a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Alli?
I was going to say one of the things like with social media or just with clients, you hear, I need to work on my booty. So I'm going to look up these exercises that are going to just fix my booty, and make it, I can just do the magic exercise or do these magic exercises. And that's
Right.
another thing that we deal with at all, definitely all ages, I feel like.
Right. The spot reducing,
Yeah.
which doesn't exist. Yep.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think are the biggest fitness mistakes women make?
There's no one size fits all. And because there's so many people advertising for their own business, right? A lot of people trying to make their own brand, their way is the best way. You have to eat this way. And so to slide in and try to eat exactly like this person, it's not the answer, right? Everybody's made differently. And so the fact of the matter, if you changed anything about your diet or anything that you put in your body, your body is going to change, right? Even if it's McDonald's every day, your body's going to change. So the changes that I always tell my clients when I had them was we're not going to change anything. I just want you to write down what you eat and how you eat and time you eat. Don't worry about changing anything. So I can see what's normal for you and understand what food you like and what makes you feel good and what makes you feel bloated so you go through it's really a lot of trial and error, right? Because gut health is a huge thing now, right? And we never talked about that before, but it's a real thing. And so to make sure that you include all of these things when you have to do a nutrition piece individually, you can't just slide into someone's DM and say, hey, what do you eat? What do you take? I want to do that. And it doesn't work for me. That's the number one,
Yeah.
I would say by far. What do you think?
Yeah.
Clients to log their food honestly when you and not change it when you ask them to do that. That's really tough
It is.
clients because it's if you're going to be looking at it, they want it to be perfect. That's just and I don't know if that's a challenge, but it's so right that we need to see what is their normal. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and then the first thing I change and the only thing I change for the first few days is the water intake. You'd be amazed at how much water, if you drank this much water and all of a sudden your body gets flushed out. Like that's one thing that everybody can do is drink an extra 60 ounces of water, right? Because we usually drink about half of what we need and we need our body weight in ounces. So I would say, little by little changes, but anything you do will gradually change the body within a couple of weeks. So, yeah.
Well, and the thing is that like you said, you cannot shoehorn my program into Alli's lifestyle or Alli's program into your lifestyle and then achieve the same results because everyone is coming into the picture with, different body composition, different stresses, sleep, like all these intangibles and
different neat, different how
yeah,
much food versus
so much different. But then the good news is that you said, hey, let's look at water. Water is basically free. or, in our world, we are fortunate. And so, the first thing you didn't say is like, all right, we need this boatload of supplements. We need this special organic. We need this proprietary blah, blah, blah. So it is accessible to, even budget friendly people. It's accessible with, you don't necessarily have to have, a whole, 6 hours a day to implement better health. It's a lot more simple than, what you'll see on social media with the marketing of fitness.
I agree. It really is. And to your point, because there's so much of that marketing and selling, you can basically get anything from one person online. They have, oh, see my bio, get this link in bio. They're constantly trying to make money, right? That's what their goal is on social media. So you're right. If you take the simple steps to do what you can do, knowing water will change the way your body looks after a week, after 2 weeks, right? And that's free, like you said, in our country.
Yeah. And so sleep. I mean, it's hard to get, especially
Right.
at the age, quality sleep in your 50s and 60s, early 40s, for women going through menopause, it's easier said than done. But like just protecting things like sleep and prioritizing a little downtime, cutting out some of the busyness to de-stress. I know it does sound, I'm oversimplifying it because we have a lot going on in our lives. But again, sleep can be free. It's just prioritizing it.
I mean, I make it a point. I go to bed and get up regardless of what my schedule is. Every single time, every night, I go to bed at 9. I get up at 6, sometimes earlier, but if I can sleep till 6, great, right? So it's really important. I've always needed a lot more sleep than the average Joe. And so that works for me. I feel great. I don't have any aches and pains at this point in my life. I feel like that it's just been the choices lately, right? The real good choices. Not saying I'm perfect. I have a sweet tooth, but I know how things make me feel, and to be aware of that and to be conscientious of what's going in your mouth, and how it affects your gut and how it affects the way you feel and your skin and all those things. It's real important to start noticing that. And I wasn't very good at that when I was younger. I didn't notice. I was like, I don't know, that makes me bloated. I have no idea. But now I'm really starting to listen, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of laugh when you say I'm a Jill that needs a lot of sleep. You know what? There's a lot of Jills that need a lot of sleep, but they don't realize it. They haven't connected those dots. And, partly because you're in the industry, you may have connected those dots a lot sooner. But I think that that's really important as fitness professionals for us to say, hey, have you looked at your sleep? How do you feel when you're unrested? How's your appetite? How's your stress level? And so just like creating awareness around those things, I think that that is our responsibility as fitness professionals. Unfortunately, a lot of what you see is the sale of, other expensive protocols that
Mhm.
are not necessarily required rather than just the basics.
Yeah, I agree. And then to your point again, besides a no one size fits all diet, I think the second biggest thing for me is to let folks know that it's okay to miss some days if we're, like my daughter just had a baby, was up in Santa Barbara, and I didn't work out for 4 days. And normally, I mean, of course, I was a little anxious because couple days, but I never took a rest day before. When I was younger, that was for wimpies, and I wasn't one of those. And I wasn't going to take a rest day because I didn't need it. But the rest piece of that is so important. And so I think when we even are teaching classes or in the gym with our friends, it depends where you are emotionally. I had a granddaughter that passed, and I was in the middle of changing my diet. I was going to compete for a figure competition. And, I said, do you think for 1 minute I could continue that focus after we lost her? And I couldn't, right? And it's okay. It's okay to not be able to do that. And that's why now it's really important to meet clients where they are, right? Like, don't go in and balls to the wallet every single day. If you're not feeling it, maybe you do a stretch day, or maybe you just don't do anything. And then that's okay.
Yeah, maybe you take a walk.
Yeah.
Maybe you play with your dog. Maybe
Hmm.
you read a book or do yoga or something like very gentle, stimulating parasympathetic nervous response instead of just the hard hitting, which is what we would have done in our 20s.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm hoping that that message of it's okay, like just what you said, it's okay to give yourself time and grace and space. And it actually serves you better than to get that constant cortisol of, that stress response all the time is just doesn't serve us well over time.
And what about mobility? Because that kind of plays off of what we're talking about with rest. You mentioned that in our email conversations. So, how is that important to you, Carolyn? And how do you incorporate that?
Mobility is freedom,
Mm.
right? It's got to be like, before my dad passed, he was mentally fine, but he couldn't move. And he was miserable. And I was not glad that he passed, but I know that he's in a better place because mentally, not being able to move your body and being okay up here, I'm not sure if I'd rather have it the other way, right? Like not understand. I don't know, but it's just really tough to watch. And imagine those of us who move every day, um, what it would be like not to move. So no, mobility is key. Mobility. I had a hip replaced a year ago, and it was really the easiest surgery I ever had in my life. I thought I'd be out for months and months. I think I missed maybe 6 days at the gym, but I was ready. Mentally, I was ready not to be able to move. It wasn't like I, ran out of the hospital. I used my walker and I used that for a couple days. And then the progress that you make if you continue to work on your mobility will greatly improve where you go and the benefits of how you can move. So I do believe that that's key.
Yeah, I'm double hips over here. So, um, yeah, yeah. And again, possibly the gift of age is that I need to be able to continue to move and move well and in a pain-free range. So because my life is much going to have much less quality if I'm unable to move. And creating that awareness with people that you don't move it, you lose it.
Mhm.
And especially with declining estrogen, people need to understand that declining estrogen, declining bone density, sarcopenia or muscle loss, you will not like, even if you, are not necessarily totally sedentary, but if you're not doing anything to offset some of those age related declines, it's going to gobble you up a lot sooner.
Yeah, I like how you said that. It's so true. Disease is just around the corner. I look at it as this like Richter scale of, you know, fitness on one side and wellness in the middle and then sickness, right? And so it all depends where you are on that thing. If you're, closer on the fitness side or wellness side, it's further away from the sickness side. So further you can get from that, keep that in mind, and that'll just keep you going. At least I feel like
Well,
it
and
will.
it's also never too late. If you are sort of an unwell and unhealthy person, the small things that you're mentioning are, like I said, accessible and will move that scale over to the wellness fit side. We've all seen, Train with Joan on Instagram, who
Mhm.
started lifting weights in her 70s,
Mhm.
and people that have been late to the game, but they're in the game and they're very strongly in the game. So anyone
Mhm.
that's listening that feels a bit discouraged that they kind of missed out because of whatever
Whatever
reason,
reason.
it's never too late to start.
So true. In fact, I know quite a few fitness professionals that didn't even start working out until their 60s and became fitness pros. Like, we all need various people teaching us, all variety of ages, fitness levels. And so if fitness is your jam and you're 70, then maybe you should become a trainer, right? And maybe it's never too late. Our industry really accommodates full-time, part-time, second job, first job, stepping stone job, right? It's so great. So yeah. keep that in mind. We definitely need more people like you guys, you girls out there that are just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. If you had a, oh,
Uh,
sorry.
I was gonna say, how about the experience of, let's talk about women versus men. Since you've been in the industry and seen a lot of things, how would you say that that's different at just earlier ages and then also older women versus men in their fitness experience?
Tough one, I feel like I had a different perspective, always being in the industry. And I started because I was an athlete in college, right? So, like I said, everyone's journey is a little bit different. And I am one of those people, as outgoing as I am, I'm very much to myself. I teach, I've run clubs, I've run multiple locations, I've done a lot of national and international stuff. But let's be certain that I am very much an introvert. Like I still like to like have my space. And so what do they call it? An extroverted introvert? I don't even know. But so I really am like, I don't really work out with anyone if I'm in the gym by myself. If I'm going to teach a class, okay, I'll give it all I got, it's a performance, and then I go home. My husband's like once said, "Why are you so like energetic around everyone?" It's not me. And sometimes our industry is so selfless, like you give so much that it's hard to manage that. And there's nothing by the time you get home, you're like fried. There's nothing left to give. Right. So I don't know if I can answer that since that I really keep to myself if I'm in the gym. And I know that I know I see a lot of people in the gym that most women like to work out with at least one or two other girls, right? I've seen partner couples in there. And I just think it just is whatever works. Whatever time of day your body works its best, and however gets you in there or even gets you moving at home, whatever works,
Yeah. Yeah. If you had a wish for our listeners regarding health, fitness, healthy aging, what would it be?
I think you already mentioned this, but it's just so important that it's never too late, right? There's so many resources. This is a great resource. The podcast is, and I'm sure that you consistently ask what do your listeners want, and you bring it to them. And so, that what comes out of the mouths of these babes is honest. It's reality. It's sometimes super silly, but it's relatable and it's real world stuff. And so just make sure you're utilizing the right resources when you get your education. You have no idea if that Instagram influencer has a certification or really knows anything at all about fitness or health or wellness. And so get the good stuff, the right stuff from the people that know.
Oh, so thank you for mentioning that, because that is one of my pet peeves about the industry, is that anyone can kind of hang up a shingle and say, I'm a pro. They might have a nice booty, but thank you, mom and dad. That's where they got it from. And, they often work hard, but they might not be qualified to help you get a nice booty. So thank you for pointing that out. Brilliant.
You're welcome.
Alli?
My wish would be I love keeping it simple with the water and the sleep. Start there. That's awesome. Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.